This episode of the Blerd Mob contains explicit language. While we want everyone to enjoy the show, sometimes we may say things that are not appropriate for all ages. So, in other words, Mom, Dad, Granny, we cussing. Discretion is advised.
King G, Grow Site, ENT. Rock with it, rock with it, rock with it, rock with it. Let me pop my shit. Let me pop my shit. Hands up.
What's up, y'all, and welcome to the Blerd Mob, your hub for all things black and nerdy. I am your host, Foop, joined by my two co-hosts, Ryan and Ralph. If you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other streaming service, make sure you hit that follow button so you can get updates from the mob.
And if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on those bell notifications for future uploads.
Today we have a special guest with us. If you have been listening to the Blerd Mob podcast since 2021, you know this face. It's our boy McMillian from Gurren Otaku Council. So what's up, McMillian?
What is good, everybody? I have come here to talk about the best Cape Crusader.
Yes, we have come with a
y'all
special
lame.
episode.
Y'all
Y'all must be
lame.
mad. You must be mad. You must be
Y'all
mad that
lame.
she ain't got no Batman
I came in
merch.
with my paraphernalia.
I
so.
came here to rep. I came here to rep. I came here
Let
to
them know.
rep.
Let
There's
them
a
know.
reason why I
No,
wanted
it's
this
nice, y'all
man
just lame.
on the podcast. You upset. You ain't gotta be upset.
No, y'all look
You
nice,
ain't
y'all
gotta-
just
You
lame.
ain't
Like,
gotta be
I
upset.
can't call anybody lame.
Right. All I got is two
You sound
posters,
upset.
so.
You sound upset. But it's
I
okay.
ain't upset.
It's alright.
For all those listening, you should know that Ryan was a fake manga fan until he moved in with me, and I inspired him to buy
Ooh.
manga. So
Not we exposing.
I was unaware. You know what? No,
We exposing?
let's
Not we
give McMillian
exposing.
his credit. No, I was unaware.
McMillian
I
came
didn't
with
know.
the tea.
I wasn't fully aware that bootlegging it was not fair to the mangakas who make all these works of art. So now I say, let me invest and pay back to the
What
people
did
who
you-
give me joy.
It's the same thing as bootleg movies. When we bootleg
I didn't
movies,
think
it
about
don't
it
go
through-
to the
I didn't think about
actors.
it
So why
thoroughly.
would you think bootlegging manga is different?
I didn't realize that mangakas were so underpaid. Movie directors get their money. Mangakas
was
are
just-
broke.
That's still
just-
not a justification for you to bootleg.
I just want to say this. He was just checking me yesterday about me reading manga.
See,
I
see what
wasn't
you
checking
started.
you. I
He
said,
was
look
just
at
checking
you.
me
Did you not
yesterday.
see? What was your perspective? Did you not see the gift? I said a man of culture, and it was a nod. That was like, yes, good job. Like, yes.
But I've been doing this.
Nah.
I've been on this.
I ain't
I've
never
been
seen your
on this,
manga.
man. Don't-
I just
don't.
like
I was
how
unaware.
you tried to call us lame, and now everybody just attacking you at this point. You see what happens when you
Right.
talk
It
It
don't
shit,
matter.
Brian?
It don't matter.
see what
Obviously, y'all
happened when you
hurt
talk
people try to hurt people, but I ain't
People
hurt.
trying to hurt people.
You see what happened when you talk shit?
Hurt people. I get it. I'm sorry that I hurt y'all.
But you trying to, motherfucker.
That's what I'm saying.
He trying to attack us.
You exactly. You're
That's
like,
what I'm saying. He called us lame. We didn't even start the podcast for real.
Lame is not necessarily an insult. Lame
No,
is not
I don't want to
necessarily
hear
an
that.
insult.
I don't want to hear you explain yourself. I don't want to hear you explain yourself. You said what
The
you
comments
said.
gonna drag you. Don't worry about
Say
it.
what
You
you
see how
said.
folks just want to act like an ass when we got guests. Like y'all want to show out now that we
Whoa,
got guests.
but
Let's
you
talk
started
I've
about
been
it.
doing this. Whoa.
But you
Let's talk
started
after
it.
the episode.
Whoa.
Let's talk
You
after the
started it,
episode.
though.
Let's talk after the episode.
No, we gonna talk right now. You started it though.
I don't want to hear it. We got.
Not 5 fingers to the face.
Nah.
You don't come
now
in here
you-
doing that.
The
Now you
curtains
wanna-
have the curtains have opened up.
Now you want to
Nah,
work on
you
our itinerary. I see.
foolish.
Okay.
The curtains have opened up.
Man, listen.
I
But
can't
what
believe my dungeon master's
Ryan,
my
shut
dungeon
up.
master acting like this, and I got a glass for him.
Oh my god.
Ryan, shut up. What I wanted to do before we got into the Batman talk, because we are doing this special episode to talk about the Batman movie that dropped March 4th, 2022. But if you were oh so special, you got to see it a little bit earlier than that. I saw it on the 3rd.
Same.
Before we get to the
Same.
Batman, we have to bring some closure to the Impulse War. For those who have been listening, me, Ryan, and Ralph started the Impulse Wars to see With tax season on the way, with our discussion of uncompromised spending, we wanted to know who was going to spend the most money, make the most impulse buys for the month of February.
I think
And
Ryan won.
as
Nah,
much
Portia.
as I want to give it to Ryan, I believe I have him beat. I do.
I bought a large quantity. She spent a lot though.
I bought me some clothes. I bought some shoes. I bought 4 Pokeballs. I did.
Tell them how much these cost, food.
You all
Tell them how much those cost.
Yeah, I got the 5th one now. I had bought the Dust Ball, the red one, the original Pokeball, the Ultra Ball, and the Premier Ball at the same time. I already had
how much
the Great
they cost,
Ball.
Ralph?
They about $100
much?
a pop.
Yeah.
These are the most expensive things on my nerd shrine, and she got all of them at once. She won the impulse war.
I had it.
Have you did you pre-order the heel
I
ball?
did.
She
I
did.
did. I did.
I am disappointed.
Don't be disappointed. This is what I do.
Her bills paid.
My bills got paid. I'm not homeless, so.
But
I think I got
Yeah,
Ryan
that
beat.
is
We
the
did
important
give
part.
Ryan some shit because he bought all them Berserk books at the back. But I got the man beat. I do. Because when I say as soon as them taxes hit that account, it was on and popping. It was
back in the day. People got tax returns and bought couches, not us.
I already got a couch. I don't need no more couches.
We bought Pokeball replicas.
And what I'm saying, if I want it, I'm gonna get it. That's what I said. If I want it, I'm gonna get it, no matter what it is. And I did. There you go. But I already knew, me and Ryan saw this coming, that he was buying stuff at first, which, like, if we was all down here, Ryan was up here. But we all knew that when my taxes dropped, that junk was finna go up to here.
I don't even matter.
Did you pay your rent? You said your impulse buy was gonna be rent. Did you pay your rent?
Right? Did your rent get paid?
Did you pay your rent?
Now, if he did,
I might be getting evicted this month.
No.
Someone gonna knock on that door.
What did you buy?
I'm gonna get that note on my door today.
Eviction notice.
He said I might got an eviction notice. What did you do? You lost the impulse war, but you finna get evicted. What did you do?
He won the eviction war.
Oh my goodness! No, I did pay my rent though. I paid all my bills. My bills are paid.
Oh, okay.
I'm glad. But as far as buying stuff, I don't think I even bought anything really this month, besides like food and stuff. That's about it.
Well, that's what was your thing anyway. You said he gonna buy that meal. How many meals did you buy? That's the question. How many meals did you buy?
How many times did you go to Wingstop this month, Ralph? I mean, last month.
How many times did you go to Cane's? How many times did you go to Cane's for the month of February?
You like Cane's now.
How many times you went to Cane's?
How many Caniac combos you get? I know you don't get the box. You got to eat.
He said, look.
I got it. Look, we're going to calculate. How many times in the day did you go to Cane's?
I would say out of the whole month, I probably went to Cane's probably 8-9 times.
He was eating out.
Friend.
He was eating.
My friend.
Except, no. Listen. I gotta have a cheat meal, okay?
Okay.
That's my cheat meal.
Yeah, you out there playing basketball with them little cheering. I bet you do need a meal.
No, listen, I actually beat one. I beat one. He was 14.
What the fuck?
Look.
What Ralph said? Send them to jail.
He had to prep for that. He did like 2 weeks worth of Pilates. He prepared for that. No cramps.
Not Pilates.
No torn
I don't know
muscles.
about cramps now. My lower back was tight.
He said, I'm hurt, but we beat him though. Did we win, Captain? Did we win?
I beat 14-year-old.
I wasn't driving anything. I was shooting everything I had.
But since McMillian is here, what is your uncompromised spending habit, McMillian?
My uncompromised spending habit?
Like, no matter what your finances looking like, if this shit was gonna go down right now, what are you spending your money on?
Don't lie, roommate.
So recently, if you the people, my friends, these lovely hosts know that I've gotten back into comic books. So recently, it's been stuff like this, like X-Men. I've been really getting back into that. So those are kind of my uncompromised buys. But at the end, I think overall my uncompromised buys are video games. Like Elden Ring came out, and I didn't care how much I was in the hole. That was gonna get bought. I don't care how much I was in the hole. That was gonna get bought. That regardless.
Credit card could have $5,000 charge. It turned to $5,050.
Y'all remember McMillian said
he
sent in the group. He was like, "Elden Ring's out. I'm finna disappear." That man got negative $10 in his account, and he isolated himself in his room.
Look, that way if the eviction notice comes, it won't interrupt his gameplay. Smart. He's smart.
Woo.
Right there, he get it. He get it. If it wasn't for the fact that I have to work to survive, to feed myself, I'd probably be playing during work hours. But
oh my,
that's crazy. We're gonna report you to HR.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't do that. He's my roommate. We gotta share these bills.
Don't do it. Please.
No, we already under the impression that you don't work anyway, Rhymes.
Yeah.
I work my butt off.
I don't believe it.
I'm a hustler.
See, it's that statement right there that statement right there that does not make me believe you.
I'm certified. 2 certifications.
Okay.
You
Black excellence, we'll give it to you. Still don't work. You still don't work.
I could get 10 promotions in the entire week. You still don't do shit. Yes, I do. How did I get there?
I don't know. We'll find out. That's a mystery we're gonna save for another day.
Yeah.
So, the reason this episode is existing, the Batman. So, at this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to put out a spoiler warning. If you have not seen the Batman, I would advise you leave, go watch the movie, and come back. We're going to go into some hot takes. These hot takes may lead to some extremely large spoilers. So don't set yourself up for failure.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go. The first thing I want to discuss as far as the Batman is Robert Patterson. When Robert Patterson first got casted for this role, there was a lot of discrepancy on whether or not he was going to be able to see this through. Ralph said this in a previous episode, that the director said that if you are doubting Robert Patterson, it's because you hadn't seen any of the work that he's done past Twilight. My stance on that was that I just wanted to see, I didn't care about the other roles that he had. I'm not a big Robert Patterson fan to begin with. I wanted to see how he was going to take the Batman persona and put it on the big screen. And I have to say, he did a damn good job.
Yes.
He did a damn good job.
I loved it. I didn't know if I should expect him to be a good Batman, but he exceeded whatever expectations I had.
Like, you got it, McMillian.
The only thing I would say that I hope that we get to see more of later, I know, like I said, I'm not the, like Pope said, I myself am not the biggest Robert Patterson fan, but I have seen him in other stuff besides Twilight. I know he's he's multifaceted. He can do more characters. The only thing I said that was kind of struggling or lacking from this film was his Bruce Wayne. But then again, we barely got to see.
Let me touch on
Bruce.
that.
Yeah.
So the question that I initially had was, did Robert Patterson play a good Batman? And the reason why I said a good Batman, I'm going to give Robert Patterson this, and I'm going to give the movie this. They settled this at the very early piece of the movie, that he was not interested in exploring this story as Bruce Wayne. This was him as Batman. And I felt like, in the fact that this movie is based off Batman Year One, that's where I got that vibe from. Him first starting out and him really not even caring about his responsibilities as Bruce Wayne. Like he's
That's
going
right. Yeah,
straight Batman mode.
So caveat to what I just said, I do think that the movie did well with it because this is very obviously early Batman, like him in his career. So like early Bruce was not really concerned about being Bruce. Right. He felt like he didn't see the value in living his life as a billionaire. He was more focused on like the whole Batman thing. So while I do say I would love to see like him do more as Bruce, I understood for this movie why I wasn't a factor because this was a very early Batman where he didn't see the value in being Bruce Wayne, like how that could have helped. Yeah. Like, so with that caveat, I will say, while we didn't get to see a lot of his Bruce Wayne, while I felt like it could have been played up a little bit more, the movie, it doesn't take away from the movie at all, really. Right. His portrayal of Bruce Wayne.
I think that's something, because they're already talking about a sequel. And I think the sequel is when he's going to come more into his split role of billionaire, playboy Bruce Wayne, and the Batman. Mm-hmm. But this right here, though we did not get to see much of Bruce Wayne, I like that they established in the movie that he did not give two fucks what was going on in Bruce Wayne's world. This is a Batman. Yep, right. This is a Batman movie. You feel me? And he let that be known early in the movie that he was not interested in keeping up appearances as Bruce Wayne. He let y'all know that early what type of movie this was, which differs from the previous Batman's movies we've seen, because we've seen that split between Bruce Wayne and Batman on the screen. But this right here, they don't call this shit the Batman for nothing. They don't call this shit the Batman for nothing. So I have to give him that. He did a damn good job. Everybody who doubted him, I hope you're eating your words right now, because he did a damn good job. And speaking of Robert Patterson, let's go ahead and jump to my girl, Zoe Kravitz, and her role as Catwoman. She played that role, and I said this on Twitter, and I want to know if you guys agree. The previous actresses or previous portrayals of Catwoman that we have seen has been all about making her sexy and flirtatious and mysterious. Like, if we want to go way back early 2000s when they came out with Halle Berry's Catwoman movie, I'm going to say this. 99% of y'all probably don't remember that plot, but I bet y'all remember that scene when she was on that roof with that tight-ass leather outfit, walking with them cats with that whip. But it proves my point that when Catwoman hits the big screen, it's all about putting her in that black skin-tight suit, making her sexy, flirtatious, and mysterious, which Catwoman is. But on the other side, Catwoman is also that she's vulnerable. She cares about people. She does selfless acts. She's there's a different side for her. Some renditions of Catwoman, she's angry because of some of the things that's happened in her life, and I feel like that's what Zoe Kravitz did for this Catwoman. That as fine as Zoe Kravitz looked in this movie, that was not what put the stamp on her Catwoman character for me. It was watching her struggle with the things that she cared about. Her friend, the fact that Carmine Falcone was her father, and that he killed her mother, and her working alongside Batman. What did that mean to stop thinking of myself for once and think of a bigger picture? That's what her Catwoman explored, and I have to give her big kudos on that. I have to give Matt Reeves big kudos on that for writing her character that way, instead of going, we're going to put Catwoman in here as a love interest for Bruce, and that's it. She has no other type of character. She's just here because Batman and Catwoman. And though they did, throughout the movie, I did feel the sexual tension between her and Bruce, which is always going to be there. You can't put Catwoman in there without putting that sexual tension in there. But I like the fact that they did not hard set that in the movie. That's what all that relationship was. And that was one of my other questions of them putting Catwoman in this movie. And I have to give them a 10 out of 10 for that. I do.
They worked her in very well.
Yes.
That she was not a side. She while like I guess to Batman she was like a side character. To the movie though, she felt very main and she had a complete character arc. It was very well done and executed. Selena Kyle usually when she's casted and stuff like that, like usually when they put Catwoman in movies, it never feels this fleshed out. And I felt like they really did a good job at weaving her story into the narrative.
That's what I was going to say. She felt like a full character. Like obviously I haven't read the comics, but out of all the times I've seen Catwoman on the big screen, this Catwoman did feel like she was developed. I knew what her desires were. I knew her past. I knew what she was aiming for, and I was almost cheering for her at the end of the day. And she wasn't just a love interest thrown in just because we need some sexual tension and we want to play fanfare. Like she was legit. Like I was rooting for Shotty. She did. I enjoyed this Catwoman.
What you, Ralph?
I would say, excuse me. I would say the one thing that I did notice that didn't sink into the sexuality of it is when Bruce was actually, scoping her out in her apartment and she was getting undressed. It didn't feel more so sexualized in the way that they could have done it.
That's a good point. They made that shit creepy as fuck. Like, why you looking in that girl window? Like, we know it's Zoe Kravitz, but why you looking in that girl window? We know it's Catwoman. We know it's Selena.
Right.
But that's a good point, though. I think to add on to Ralph's fact, because that was a really good point, that she looked damn good as Catwoman, but the way the scenes that she were in, it wasn't just like, look at me in this sexy black outfit. Like, it got to the point where, what was that scene where they caught her beating that man's ass on the roof? Like, she was in full costume, but it was like, what it is, she's beating his ass. She is whipping his ass. Like, I didn't see, like, sexy Catwoman. I saw hurt, and I felt her anger. And I was like, yes, this is it. Yep. This is what I wanted to see out of Selena Kyle. Woo.
I did enjoy it.
So the other
one thing.
Oh, you got it. What's up?
Now, one thing that I did like about the movie was the music and the feeling that it gave me.
Oh man,
the
score?
Yeah.
Ooh, perfect execution.
The music
when I say Ralph, I was on the edge of my seat.
Yeah.
It's the thing about movies. When you have a good score, I will say this. Your movie could be trash, boo-boo, garbage. But if you got a fire-ass score to back it up, your movie just lives through the score. But I would have to say the score and the movie were equal on this one, but I have to agree with Ralph.
Yeah, no, for me, while the score is great, I love the score. For me, I don't know if people have been seeing it. Like on Twitter, people usually complain about like the cinematography in superhero movies. The cinematography in this movie was amazing. The cinematographer or whatever put their whole self into this.
Let's talk about. This is how we know to back McMillian's point up. The scene. Let's talk about the car chase between Penguin and Batman. That right there,
hey bro,
was a car chase. This is not your Fast and the Furious type car chase. This is a car chase. Do you hear me?
This is some shit that could happen on the 405 in LA.
This is
that was legit.
The colors of the car chase, the angles of it. That had me on the edge of my seat. Like, yes, this is a car chase, but yo, this is a car chase. You don't know what's about to happen. You know this man is about to get him. You just sitting there like watching, like, when he's gonna get him. When is he gonna get him? When is he gonna get him? And the cinematography for that scene doesn't even happen once they get on the highway. It happens back before they pulled off. When he pulled out that Batmobile, and he was just revving that junk up.
Man,
the standstill.
That thing was mean.
The standstill that happened, like the moment you heard the engine, everybody was dead
Boy,
just looking.
I
was
saw
sitting
that
there like,
junk
what the
in
fuck is
IMAX.
going on?
I saw that junk in IMAX, so the walls start burning. I was like, oh. I was like, yo, you not finna go nowhere. I forgot what kind of car the Penguin had, but I was like, you not getting nowhere in that
It was
four-door.
Maserati.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, you not going
No,
nowhere
wait.
in that Maserati.
Yeah, it was
Whatever.
Yeah,
It was a four-door sedan.
Yeah,
I said, you are not about to run from this man in a four-door sedan. I just want to put that out there. You might get the one up on him, which he did. But you weren't going to outrun this man in a four-door sedan. You wasn't.
The moment when the gasoline car takes and tips
And then
over
and
and
that
the
semi truck
ramp
that failed the
happens
car.
and the semi truck and you see the explosion, you see Penguin cheers like a sound. I got you.
Yeah.
I got him.
He
I
got-
got,
and
and
then-
you just see it whoosh coming. I was like, oh, because like to speak on the cinematography of it a bit, like the car chase, the way it's even shot is so cool. Because anytime you cut to like Batman's thing, it's not like you're not looking inside the Batmobile. You're looking out always forward toward where Penguin is driving. And anytime it cuts to Penguin's thing, it's always backwards, like in the rear view mirror where you can see his face and everything is going on behind him. Such a good way to film a car chase.
That's what I'm saying. This is a car chase. This is
And you see all the trucks flipping over. It legit looks like Batman could fail the entire time.
It
felt like risk was involved the entire time because these dudes are human. Like, this is a regular guy, and he is risking his life right now.
It also showed how relentless this Batman is. Because if I'm chasing after somebody, I don't care how fast my car go. As soon as I see 18-wheelers and gas trucks flipping in the middle of the interstate, you got it.
Exactly.
You got it. You got it. But the fact that he kept going, and the other thing that I like about this car chase scene is that the ramp felt like a coincidence. You ever watch a car chase and when something happens that saves them, it's like, okay, we saw that. We saw that coming. Yeah. But that ramp where
the fact that
the ramp coming out before around the same time the explosion happened felt like you got lucky, my G. You felt it. Like, you got lucky, my G. Like, this wasn't planned out. You didn't survive this because plot armor. You got lucky, my G.
Lucky.
Bro, and the end of it, just when he made it through rammed Penguin, and you just see him walking up to the car, it looked like a horror scene out of a Friday the 13th movie. I love that entire scene, bro. When he's just walking up and leaning over, I'm like, bro, is he about to kill this man? Like, I was scared.
But I like how he kept
legit.
I like how he kept his morals too. So they also put down that this Batman was going to be a bit more violent, and they showed that. But then it got to Selina wanting to kill somebody. He was like, no. Like, we done seen a couple of scenes of you roughing up folks, but we don't kill people. And I was like, come on, Batman, come on.
He was getting people in the leg with that, what's it called? The thing
the grapple hook. He
grapple hook went through a couple of folks' legs.
That's very comic book accurate too.
Yes.
What else I liked about it is, to talk on the Selina point, when Selina pulled out the gun, like the Glock, right? Like the gun she had, he even reacted to like, we're not doing it. Like, we're not using this to get the job done. And I was like, I love that, because if anyone who's ever read a Batman comic or watched like the old animated series, he does not fuck with guns at all. And that was just like a great, I thought, like a head nod to that whole thing.
And he was willing, like, the way he was holding the gun, like, she could pull the trigger and shoot you at any moment. But this is how hard set he is. And like, we not using guns, Selina. We not doing this right now. And talking about this Batman movie, the other thing that was going around, I even said this myself, is that how is this Batman movie going to compare to the previous Batman movies? And my finite answer, my definite answer to this, is that it doesn't. When they said that this was a comic book movie, they meant that shit.
Yes.
When I was watching this movie, it felt like I felt like I had been sucked into a middle of a Batman graphic novel, or the middle of one of the Batman Arkham series games. And one thing stood out to me that told me that this was going to be a different type of Batman movie. The narration at the beginning. If you ever read a Batman comic or a Batman graphic novel, the first couple pages is Batman narrating. You don't see that man in like the first couple frames, but he's talking in the back, and then they go to him when he shows up. So when the movie
And that
starts,
sucked me in, Food. That
It's-
sucked me
Yeah.
in when there was.
I was like, this is already different. Just for that small little detail that we are looking at Gotham, but we are seeing Batman narrate as he would if I was reading one of the graphic novels.
Not only that, but it accentuates that whole start accentuates the presence of what the Batman or who the Batman is.
Mhm.
The fact that he was the fact that the moment the criminal saw the bat signal in the air and would start looking at dark corners, it was like, shit, is he there?
Like, is he
I was
in-
like, this is not a movie based on a comic book. This is the comic book movie.
Yes.
This is exactly what you want out of that. Like, as much as I love The Dark Knight, there was something always that felt like off or missing with those movies. Like, it almost felt like Batman was a viewer of the events that were happening in that movie. He never tried to get the jump on the stuff. It felt like everyone, like it felt like almost like the Dark Knight trilogy was more about the villains than it did about Batman. This movie, though, took the villain and and Batman himself and put them both on a pedestal. It's like, this is what it's about, and this is the guy that's at the forefront of everything.
Yes.
Could not ask for, as a fan of the comics, could not ask for something better. They really made sure to accentuate that this was a comic book movie.
And that's what I was saying, that you do not have to be a Batman fanatic to like this movie. But if you know the lore behind it, if you've read the graphic novels, if you understand Batman and Bruce Wayne, the dynamic, what it is to be Batman, it's a love letter. It is. That you're watching it and it's like, this is the Batman. I think the biggest kudos that I have to give to this movie is that they spoke more to his detective side, which we have not gotten in the previous portrayals of Batman. That all of the previous Batman movies have always been action-packed, in your face, the villains are flashy, and all of this. And even what McMillian said is like, sometimes the story is being told from the villain and Batman is just the watcher of it. Like, this movie right here is The Batman. I have to go back to the title. They did not call this shit The Batman for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
This was a comic book movie. It was.
I mean, and you guys have probably heard me talk about it before, at least not on the podcast, but I was really hoping that we would eventually get a Batman movie that showed Bruce's work as a detective. And boy, did this one do it. Granted, it is very much an early Batman detective story where he leans a lot on Jim for a lot of like the detective aspects, but I can definitely see this Batman evolving into the Batman that I know from comic books, the guy who always has a plan, the guy who's ready for stuff. Like, this is very much I'm stumbling, but I know my shit and I can get there. I can see this one evolve into the one I know from the comic books, and that's beautiful.
And
considering that most time,
I was gonna say, speaking on him leaning on Jim, you also get that him also leaning on Alfred.
Oh yes, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So,
definitely,
I'm here for it. It doesn't, as much as I love The Dark Knight, as much as I love it, it's just, this was a different kind of Batman movie. I went with two of my friends, and one of them, he didn't know the Batman lore, so he didn't really enjoy the movie as much. And I want to stick on the Batman, but this is something I want to talk about later, was that his superhero movie experience has been Marvel. So he's coming off, the last movie he's seen was Spider-Man Endgame, and coming to see the Batman, and he just felt like he was missing something. And it's the fact that this movie is not, it has action in it, but it's not that action-packed, in-your-face type movie. And honestly, Batman isn't like that most of the times. Sometimes it's this. It's the dark,
It's
detective,
methodical.
him trying to figure out stuff, background story type thing that we got in this movie.
Well, like even if you, and it's interesting that he said that, because if you take Batman out of it, like I know some Batman lore, but I'm definitely not as invested into the lore as you guys. But as a movie, this was a great thriller. This was a great suspenseful movie. You know what I'm saying? When you look at hero movies have almost become their own genre of movies because of how much of a footprint Marvel has made into the cinematic universe.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at this Batman movie and you're going in it, I'm finna see a hero movie, I could see why you would be disappointed. Because I went in like clean slate. I didn't know what to expect because they saying it could be a horror movie. I saw some tweets coming out like it's more like a horror film. And honestly, I got that feel. I personally really love thrillers. I grew up watching horror films, and there was times where in this movie I was scared. There was not like fearful, like oh my gosh, but like there was
on
times
the
where I was
edge
like,
of your seat type thing.
yeah, I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. You can ask Jay, and we was there. I forgot that my seat had a recliner. I didn't update the recliner until like halfway through the movie. I was legit. I was on the edge the entire time because I was sucked in. I'm like, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? What are they going to figure out? It's dark. It's gritty. If you're used to hero movies, like that theme of movies, that's not this movie.
And that's
according
exactly
to y'all,
what I said.
that's what the Batman is. But like for someone who isn't just as invested, this was just a great thriller. This was a great suspense film.
To support the point that you are making, Ryan, the opening of this film is the Riddler scoping out a house.
Exactly.
And then him appearing behind them, quiet as hell. It is such... I was like, this is the shit that
made me jump.
Made out of.
Like, when is he gonna kill him?
Like, he's watching the TV and they just do a quick flash and he's standing there and just out. And I was like, yo. Because my thing was how was the intro going to go? And I'm sorry whoever's listening to this and is mad for me for making this comparison. I don't care. You take it up somewhere else. I was waiting for the intro because the way that the Dark Knight started. That intro for the Dark Knight, come on, talk to me.
Very good.
And when this one started, I was like, if the intro of this movie grabs me, I know what kind of ride I'm on for the rest of this movie. And that right there, though it wasn't them robbing a bank and blowing up and escaping in buses and shooting people and stuff, it grabbed me to the point where I knew what kind of movie this was and I knew what kind of villain that the Riddler was going to turn out to be. And I was like, you know what? I'm with this shit. From the very beginning of the movie, even if we want to just touching on McMillian's point, when the first minute of the movie is us sitting there listening to this man doing this heavy ass breathing while he's scoping this place out, I said, you know what? This is making me very uncomfortable. But I'm with I'm with this shit. I'm with this shit. And
so you're not, and when you're watching it, you're like, this is a good guy. Why are they killing him? This is an assassination attempt. What's going on until you even find out what the Riddler's true motive is. Like, you're watching that and you're feeling completely bad for the guy. And I like that the movie, you transition into like, well, he's a little crazy, but is what he stands for, is this a good reason to do the shit that you're doing? So it had a good motivation behind it.
His motive, and I know McMillian played this, but his motive reminded me of the motive from the Telltale series season 1, where they did Lady Arkham and the orphan, and with Thomas Wayne being involved, and they were supposed to help him out and they didn't. It reminded me a lot of that. And I guess that's the other reason that this is a comic book movie. It's the sources that they pulled from. All of the Batman content that it reminded me of. The Telltale series, the Long Halloween. They pulled direct references from the Long Halloween in this movie. Batman Year One. There's a third graphic novel that inspired this movie. I haven't read it, but just going off those 3 alone, I felt that. I love that. That you could look at it and it was like, I know it. I know exactly.
I know where this is coming from.
I know where this is coming from, and I know how this is about to make me feel because I remember how I felt when I saw it.
No, this movie I feel like is the way comic book movies should probably be done. One, you can feel the artistic license of the director in it, and it because like Foop was saying or like Ryan was saying, this isn't your average run of the mill superhero movie that like Marvel has like copy kind of almost mastered. This is legit a thriller movie with a superhero in it. And
There
is
we
and
go.
but it's taking all of the stuff that makes Batman such a good comic book and putting it into this film. Like for instance, Hoop said that it reminded her. You could see the references of Long Halloween, and I could also see it. But also like the New 52 run of like Batman. So these two comic books right here legit feature basically what this movie was, where like the Riddler had taken over Gotham almost, like a little bit different. But Batman had to figure out how to figure out. Basically, the way this movie ended was the start of those two comics that I just showed. Like where a
Okay.
city had been overrun and flooded, and basically was being ruled by Riddler, and you had to Batman had to constantly adapt and figure out what his plan was to see if he could save Gotham in its entirety.
You know what it
So like,
reminded? You know what the ending reminded me of though? Because I know you read more comics than me, McMillian. So you have your
mm-hmm,
comic book side. But what the ending reminded me of was Gotham. In one of the seasons of Gotham, something I don't think they flooded the city. Or maybe they did flood the city. They did something where the National Guard had to come in, like Gotham was off limits. They did something so bad that Gotham was off limits. You couldn't go in or out of Gotham.
mm-hmm.
And it got to the point where the villains were taking over different sections of Gotham, which is like you said what this
So
movie is about to lead into.
mm-hmm. So
But
I
in
think comic book wise, not to cut you up, I think comic book wise, there's an older story called No Man's Land, where that's
okay,
basically kind of like what it centers around, where like the city has become so bad, like the National Guard is blocking people off, and then
that sounds right. That sounds
certain
right.
villains are taking like claim to certain parts of the city, and Batman has to like basically almost do a gauntlet to like reclaim
Right.
his city. And it's a little bit like Zero Year, the one I just showed, but instead of it being multiple villains, it's just the Riddler.
Okay.
Uh, so like that's what that movie. That's the end of the movie reminded me of. But it definitely seems like they're setting up for a No Man's Land type of story, especially with the
Mhm.
Penguin series that we're getting
Right.
apparently later on. So
Mm.
So I it was funny that how it reminded us of two different Batman stories, but I do remember that season of Gotham being based off of No Man's Land.
mhm.
So we talked about the movie, the suspense, it being a horror thriller. I want to touch back on something that me, Ryan, and Ralph talked about in a previous episode. The discrepancy over this movie being PG-13 instead of rated R. So how do we, now that we've seen the movie, how do we feel about the movie being PG-13?
I'll say this. If it was rated R, I don't think that would have necessarily made it that much better because it already felt very mature, dark, and gritty. It being rated R, the only thing they could have probably added a little bit more blood. We probably could have seen the dude actually smacking the guy head in and seeing brain splatter and all of that. But at the same time, I don't think that would have added too much to the story because the story was already very dark and suspenseful. It felt like even if it was rated R, I don't think it could have necessarily made it better. It was already really great. Rated R would have just been like the equivalent to adding sprinkles on top of a cupcake. It's still a delicious cupcake. I might be hungry.
I
I'm sorry.
hate
I'm
when
sorry.
this
I'm
man
sorry.
always go
I'm
to
sorry. I'm
food
sorry.
references. It's like every episode he gotta say something about some food.
I no, but y'all see what I mean though,
But
right?
I get your analogy.
I get
I'm
it.
just laughing at the fact that you a cupcake. I
Right.
felt your analogy.
Oh my goodness. I would say that this movie did feel like PG-13. The
Hmm.
only way is that it could have really just been rated R, would have just been pretty much the scenes that Ryan's called out, except I would add another one where Batman actually stuck himself with the adrenaline pen and just started
mm,
going ham on that guy's face on
Hmm.
metal. If in a
hey,
rated R movie, that man would have been an inch within his life, like leading.
Instead of just
Yes,
like a broken
That-
nose and
Yes.
a bruised face. Yeah.
Batman was pumped up, bro. Like that dude's
Batman
skull would have been
hit that man at
bashed
least
in.
50
He
bro.
started doing
times.
that. He did that warrior cry. I said, "Whoa!" I think another scene that, if they went a different route about this, they probably would have to made it rated R. Is when they found Catwoman beating that guy up, and she got her phone back, and they were listening to that voicemail of Falcone and Annika. Now let's talk
Yeah.
about, had we actually seen that scene
Ooh.
and not heard it through a phone call. Now I think had they went that route, they would probably have to make that rated R, because the implications of what
Yeah.
that phone call meant.
Yeah.
And we had already seen what the apartment looked like after he came there and got her. So if they were to show us that full scene, him coming in, tearing up the place, and then leading to that conversation where he strangled her at the end, I think had they shown that, they would have had to make that rated R.
So all of us, like, basically all of us was good with this being PG-13, right?
No, I have no issues
Yeah,
with
I
this
have-
being.
Yeah,
I'll just
I
make
think-
sure.
Yeah, no, I think everything they did within the scope of the PG-13 was good. Like, I usually, what's weird about the racism for movies, 2 F words can make you rated R. So, like,
we only heard
you're right.
one. They dropped one
yeah, no,
F-bomb.
you get every
Right.
PG-13 movie gets 1 F-bomb. If you have 2, it can make you rated R, which is wild. But like, the violence was Batman-ish. It was Batman. That, like, there was no taking away from that. Because the thing is, he's not a person that kills. So like, everything that you saw where he like maimed people, that was him. Like, I got the ferocity. I felt the ferociousness, the anger that was welled up inside him anytime he fought. Like, I got all that. I don't think making it rated R probably would have been like what Foop said. If we saw that girl get murdered, that would have been a big implication. Hearing it was good enough, but I could have definitely seen like a different cut where they actually show, like, she set up a recording video and that she sent or something like that. Like,
And he broke a couple of arms. Like, those fights,
Yeah.
they had some
Oh,
really
yeah.
good choreography
Oh,
in
he
those
was hurting
fights
folks.
as well. I
Right?
love that.
Come on.
He was not
Batman
playing.
do that anyway. Seasoned Batman break folks' bones. My arm broke. Where's the drugs? Yo.
Yeah. He had some ferocity in those fights, and I gotta say, they were well choreographed. I enjoyed it.
what I really enjoyed besides just the fighting in this movie was also like the humanity that it kind of showed. Like, Batman gets shot a lot
Yeah.
in this
That-
movie. He gets shot a lot, and like, he gets shot a decent. Well, not so much now in the comics, but like early on, bullets was like a big part of like his struggle, was trying to get over people shooting him. And I like the fact that they showed it. Like, this is Batman into his beginning of his like 3rd year, in the middle of his 3rd year, and bullets are a problem. Granted, he has armor to deal with it, but you saw like near the end of the movie, like, he had to pick himself back up, had to
adrenaline
he
pen.
fell a couple of times. Yeah, adrenaline
Yeah.
pen had to help him out. So,
And I like that adrenaline pin. I very much enjoyed that scene because it did make him more humane. Like, this dude is passed out. Please don't say he just got the power of love and motivation to get up. No, that ain't that. Like, he got up. I
think
like that.
The other thing that I appreciated for them exploring a early Batman is that there was no Lucius Fox. There was no, here's these gadgets that do these special things. Here's this helmet that can let you do this. It was him making all of his shit from scratch. Like, when he had the contacts,
Those
that
are
him and
dope.
Selena were using,
Yeah.
that was all him. I also appreciated that about the movie, that this is a Batman that is basically, it's the him and Alfred show at this point. There is no Lucius, there is no special tech.
no Robin. Yep.
Yeah. So that's the other thing that I appreciate about this movie. I also appreciated that maybe they might do this later in the movies and introduce Lucius, because Lucius is an integral part of Bruce Wayne's story, which is what I was saying before. They was like, we not doing Bruce. But it would be interesting to see if they're going to put Lucius in play for this Batman, and if he's going to get more advanced tech and stuff like that.
I do think that could be a possibility, especially based on how this movie ended with the whole him coming to realize that he can be more than a symbol of revenge or vengeance type thing. Because that's usually how it goes in the comics when he starts out. Like, what's the point of a Bruce Wayne? Like, I know what I came back to my city to do. There's really no point in me being Bruce no more. And then later on, as he goes, he figures out I can be a symbol of peace and justice as being Bruce Wayne as much as I can be Batman. So I feel like the way this movie ended could definitely lead to Lucius being introduced, or more goings on with Bruce Wayne and Batman as a whole, the duality, as we move throughout this movie series.
I like that you said that because I also enjoyed how jaded he was, even to the point where when he learned the truth about his father, he like when Alfred said no, it was all an accident, blah 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 blah. It was interesting that he didn't tell the Riddler or anybody else or try to find any way to prove like, no, that's not what happened. It was an accident. Falcone betrayed his trust. He tried to set him up, blah blah blah. I like that he was so jaded and really didn't care about his Bruce Wayne persona or his real life outside of Batman, that it didn't even get no attention. Like, I thought it was weird, but it was true to character at the same time because he didn't really care about his Bruce Wayne persona.
I think that spoke more to the relationship that they were trying to build between Bruce and Alfred. Because he did hear one thing from Falcone, but when he confronted Alfred, I'm finna call this man Albert. When he confronted Alfred about it, and Alfred was like, "No, that's not what happened. This is what went down," and he took that as law. It showed that trust between Bruce and Alfred, solidifying that relationship. So, I have 2 more questions for the Batman, and this is like question 3, but there's a part A and a part B to it.
Oh my goodness.
So here is question 3, part A. At the end, towards the end of the movie, we see the Riddler in Arkham, and he gets him a buddy. There's a guy talking to him. And I didn't know this. This is apparently the actor that played Druig in the Eternals. I didn't find out till after. But there is his cellmate, well, not cellmate, just the guy in the next room is talking to him. Who do you guys think that is? So the speculation is that it's the Joker, but I've heard others.
The first person I said was Joker until Jay said probably Two-Face.
Okay, so here's the thing. I read this. Apparently, Matt Reeves has talked about the movie a bit. So apparently, within the first 2 years that we don't get to see, Batman has already encountered the Joker. He's just not known as the Joker yet. He's apparently a serial killer or whatever. So that probably was the Joker, just not the Joker that we know. Should I give my opinion on that scene yet?
Yeah,
or
go ahead.
Are we just okay?
Yeah,
I kind of didn't like that, knowing
that it was the Joker.
Yeah,
because I have an issue. I have an issue with that too.
Because my thing is, I felt like we're always in a rush with Batman to get to him. And while I get it, he's if you're a comic book fan, if you're not a comic book fan, you know the Joker. You are excited when he shows up, especially because of the dynamic he plays with Batman. And I get it. I just there are so many other good villains in his rogues gallery. Exactly. Case in point, we got to see Riddler really strut his stuff in this movie. I feel like if you're not a huge comic book fan, you really probably walked out of this movie theater with, dang, the Riddler is wild, right?
He got that smoke.
Yeah, so I felt like it really depends. I feel like on how these next movies for this series is coming. But I just felt like we're always in too big of a rush to get to him, and I just wish we would slow down and let him come more methodically. Like he's huge, but he's not. He's not. He shouldn't be like the. I don't know. I feel like you should hold the smoking gun. Like you should hold the ace, the Joker. The Joker. You know, you hold that in your back pocket until like it's really time to play it. And I just felt like showing him so early or leaning on it so early was just somewhat of a mistake. Not bad. I mean, I like the tease was there, but I just felt like we could have went with it without it for maybe a movie more or something. Exactly. Like
Yeah.
So
What I would like is, even if they did tease the Joker and it does turn out to be him, that in the next few movies we don't see him. Like, let us know that he exists for the people who would love to see him.
yeah,
Because after seeing the Riddler and even seeing how they did Penguin, like, I'm familiar with those enemies. I was like, I want to see everybody else. I
exactly.
really would love to see everybody else at this point. As someone who is familiar with the Batman, but not as much as you two, I would love to see the rest of them, because I didn't know the Riddler could get this dark. I'm not even going to lie to y'all.
Exactly.
I never knew that.
So, like, I hope the same thing, Ryan. If that is the case, I really do hope that this was just like a, hey, just so you know, he's coming.
He's here,
He's here.
Yeah.
but not yet.
But yeah, exactly. I hope that it's that, because the fact that they were able to do such a good job with the Riddler, it like brings me hope that they can show how versatile or how like good Batman's rogues gallery is, because it's such an interesting one, because you have a guy who's on a team, the Justice League team, who handles universe shattering threats, right? Like,
Right.
but he's also at the same time a much what Marvel refers to these heroes as like street level. Like, he's very much like I can do greater, but also at the same time I'm here to protect the city. And my street level villains, they crazy. They just
For real. My street level villains got smoked.
Yeah. So I hope we get more to see that. Like, I don't know who they're planning on doing in the second movie, whether it be like Two-Face, Mr. Freeze, Ivy, something along the lines of that.
I forgot about my girl Ivy. The issue that I had with them teasing the Joker is the same reason McMillian has an issue with it. Batman has way more villains. My other big thing was that because of how Robert Patterson played this role, there are so many villains that could keep that suspense, that horror type theme going than putting in the Joker. Like, McMillian named Mr. Freeze and Ivy. I could go for Hush. If they pull Hush out, I'm with that shit. Now, for the sequel, they have been rumoring the Court of Owls, and I'm with that too. And let's talk about...
That would be so interesting, considering that the Court of Owls, when they introduced the Court of Owls, Batman was like he wasn't like late into his years of crime fighting, but he went through I believe 2 Robins by that point or something like that. So that'd be interesting, because the movies have never really given me a good Robin. I feel like
I've not enjoyed a single like live action Robin, because I saw the set of Batmans that came before the Dark Knight trilogy. I didn't really enjoy those Robins.
I forget. I know what you're talking about.
It's George Clooney when they did Batman and Robin. Yeah, but that was like all flashy and colorful and stuff, and that's why I was saying that this movie doesn't really compare to that.
Yeah, that one was a little bit more like golden age comic-y and not like current age comic-y. Like, if we're going for like current, I would love to see how Robert Pattinson handles having a Dick Grayson or a Damian or any of the sidekicks. I would like if we're going Court of Owls, I wonder how much time skip we're going to do, or if they're going to just keep him by himself.
Yeah,
and he discovers Robin within the movie. I would love to see how that plays out. Yeah. Like, that doesn't sound like a bad twist of fate, especially after we went through the whole crime family ones to go to the Court of Owls, the people that are secretly running Gotham, like the rich socialites that run it. I would love to see how that plays out, especially whether it fits him by himself or he has his family with him.
I'm curious to see that as well. Other villains that I feel like matches Robert Pattinson's vibe, and these are small time villains that may have to lead into a bigger plot. If they wanted to pull out Victor Zsasz, if they wanted to pull out Mad Hatter, I could see that going.
Oh, definitely. The way they did this, I could definitely see a Mad Hatter, like them pulling off a Mad Hatter or like a Scarecrow type situation.
Scarecrow. I was going to say Scarecrow too. Now, that's what I'm saying. If they want to keep going with this horror type theme, if they want to keep going with this detective Batman, I feel like those are the villains that you need to put into play to keep that going. Because the Joker, he's some of the stuff, yes, you have to think of like where he's going with it. But the Joker has always been that type of flashing in your face type villain. And the route that this Robert Patterson's Batman went, if they want to keep Detective Batman, they're going to have to put some other villains in play other than the Joker. They're going to have to put some villains in play that are going to make him think. That's going to make him be like, oh shit. Or that's going to mess with his head at an extreme level. And I'm not saying that the Joker doesn't mess with his head, but I'm just saying that the villains that I name, when I've seen them in the comic books, when I've seen them in the games, these were the parts of the game when I was like, y'all, what the fuck?
Because Joker's the creme de la creme. He is the end all be all for Batman. Because the thing is, he's unpredictable. Like, no amount of detective work can really prepare you for a Joker case. But that's why I was like, I kind of am upset that you are tipping your hand so early. Like, I get it. Joker's an iconic character. If you've never read a Batman comic, you know who Joker is. But I just wish, like, how well they did this movie, especially with Riddler. Because I'm pretty sure for most people, they didn't take Riddler serious. They were just like, he's some goofy guy who makes riddles that Batman has to solve.
That's all we've seen.
Yeah.
If unless you read the comics, if you're like me, you never saw it. We always saw that.
I like the fact that they changed his costume for that very reason. So say they did Robert Patterson's Batman and they put the Riddler in this bright ass green suit with all these question marks over it. I don't think they would have took the movie as seriously as they did if he popped up like that. Given that is his comic accurate look. But had they put that in the movie, I think the first thing people would have thought of was when Jim Carrey did the Riddler. And
I mean, his current redesign is a little bit more tame. He wears like a bright green suit, and he has like a tie with a question mark on it, and the the cane. Like, but it still would have probably looked goofy in this setting a bit. What I'm saying is, like, I loved what they did with him, because that's how threatening he can be in the comics. So I would love to see them do that more with other known but lesser known characters, because all of Batman's rogues gallery in comic books is regarded as the best.
Now,
and I feel like this movie really illustrated why that is.
I think somebody else, if they wanted to redo a character, I think this Robert Patterson, if they did a League of Assassins story with this Robert Patterson,
I would like to see that.
I think it would be sick. It would be sick. I'm thinking like Arkham, was it Arkham City? When it was old dude who was working at Arkham Asylum. What is his name?
Hugo Strange.
And Talia and Ra's al Ghul. That whole storyline, I could definitely see that fitting Robert Patterson's Batman if they wanted to pull something out from what they were already doing.
Definitely.
I would like to see that, actually. That sounds fun.
Yeah. Well, can I go now?
Sorry.
We're sorry. We sorry.
Nah. See, I wanna give Jay the respect, because this is his first new special episode.
This is your house to get him.
I gotta treat my guests properly, Ryan. What do you?
I appreciate.
And this is why we don't let Ryan invite nobody over. This
right. But to go back to the point of your question or food, I think that they're playing the Joker as the guy that played Druid as the Joker. I think that was the Joker, because I was trying to look through the glass and see like the marks on his face, and I kind of saw like the scar a little bit leading up past his mouth. So okay, I had the envision of that's the Joker. Now I feel like the way that they're gonna do it, I might be 100% wrong on this, but I feel like they're gonna go the route of how in Eternals, is it Arishem, the big red guy from Marvel? Yeah. I feel like they're gonna do it how they introduced him and be like, okay, at the end of Eternals, not to go on and tell you, but at the end of Eternals, Arishem takes certain people from the Eternals and say, we're gonna come back and do a judgment on Earth. And be like, okay, that's our signal of we're gonna see him later, except not anymore, possibly.
Yeah.
But in DC, they probably did that with the Joker, saying, okay, we have an introduction of him, but we're not going to see him until some movies later. That could be the
Can I
route that
hop
they're
on that
going.
right quick? Can I hop on that point right quick?
Yeah, you can.
So, if you ever play the Telltale series for the Batman, in season 1, he meets the Joker. Bruce Wayne ends up in Arkham, and he meets the Joker, but the Joker isn't the Joker at that time. He is going under the alias of John Doe.
Mhm.
Like, we know who you are, and we know who you're about to be, but the storyline is not about you. You're integral to the plot. We get introduced to you as a character, but this is not your story right now. And we explore that relationship between him and Bruce and him and Batman as him being John Doe and not being the Joker. And then when season 2 of the Telltale series came around, that's when he fully evolved into being the Joker. So if I'm with Ralph, that I would let that slide. If that's the purpose of introducing the Joker this early, I will let that slide. But I wanted to hop on that point before you moved on, Ralph.
Well, for the comic book folks, is there a point where Joker plays like a organizer, leader of the group type role where he gathers a lot of villains? Because if that is Joker, it does seem like he's kind of building a relationship with the Riddler.
So there's, I'm about to say, there's a couple of stories, most notably or most recently, Death of the Family, where he has a lot of like orchestrational parts where like villains are kind of, I don't even know if the villains know that they're fully working under Joker's plan, but like,
that's what I was about to say. Like, he's good.
Usually he's never direct with it.
He's good at manipulating people to work for his plan, but he's not gonna be like, okay, y'all, we the Legion of Doom, and this is what y'all finna do. He hasn't done that, but he does a very good job at manipulating villains and heroes to fit into the pieces of his overall plan. At the end of the day, the Joker, at the end of the day, everything is his show. Let's put that out there. Everything is his show. It's not him and friends, him and Harley. It's his show. So anybody who falls into that, whether you know it or not, you are working for him.
Exactly.
Okay.
But I know you had some more, Ralph. You've been sitting there marinating. So what else you got?
I have.
What else you got?
I would say I did enjoy the Riddler's character. To also go back on that, the Riddler's character was very fitting for this movie. He did give me that thriller vibe from beginning to end. The only thing is, I was not expecting this man to come out looking like he came out of a movie on American Pie when I saw his face. He looked very...
You know what? You know what? You ain't lying. You not lying.
Because when I look at the mask, I'm thinking somebody under there is just very gruesome. And I looked at his face between the Riddler and the Batman's interaction while he was in quote unquote hell
prison
or jail.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is the guy?
Ralph was like, if you don't punch that man in the
face. Like, this is the guy that's giving you problems?
But that's how it is, though, usually for Batman villains, except the Joker, because, you know, he like to be in everybody's face. You don't need no mask for the stuff that's finna go down. But some of the villains that he has, when they're under that mask and they're in that persona, they are very terrifying. And then you unmask them and it turns into an episode of Scooby-Doo. Like, what? You're who?
I mean, like Batman himself, Bruce Wayne outside of like, or at least Robert Pattinson's portrayal, like Robert Pattinson isn't as hulking as Ben Affleck or other people. Like, so even him outside of the suit is like,
he was very skinny. He looked
like
a skinny white boy.
He like an emo kid
if y'all don't punch it, if y'all don't punch this man in the face, this man wears eyeshadow. If you don't fuck his head up.
Bro, the scenes where he takes off his helmet and he looking at the computer with his eyes still black, I'm like, bro, go take a shower. Go wash that off.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's just Batman and Batman villains all around. You never you can never really I think it's the whole, even like the Superman thing, like you see what you want to see kind of type thing.
Mhm.
Like you would never really see past like what they currently portray, but in reality, they're this behind all the regular mundane stuff.
Right.
Mhm.
And I did like that. I liked the vulnerability of how we saw Batman not really caring about his human persona at all, really.
Mhm.
Until it came to the fact of at the end where he had the conversation with the Riddler and he was like, oh shit, he's going after Bruce Wayne. But
Oh, he thought.
yeah,
Or
he
so he
thought,
thought.
but
Hey,
I'm here. I'm Bruce Wayne, but Alfred's at my house. So, oh shit.
Oh, he
And
gonna
we got
ride
to
for
see that
Alfred.
realism.
He gonna
Well,
ride for Alfred.
Yeah.
and even at the end of that, at the end, towards the end of the movie, where he was like, "Oh, you know my identity, you know my identity," and he's like, "Oh, you don't know who the fuck I am. You're crazy. You're crazy.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, it's such a good scene.
I
It
love
was.
that
God.
scene.
I thought
It's-
he was
it's
gonna
the
break his
way-
glass.
Because
That man was
especially because
Bruce Wayne.
And then the Riddler's like, no, this was not how it's supposed to go. I was like, I love that entire scene, bro. I love that entire scene.
That
I
really
especially liked it because like Riddler was like, "Oh, you're not as smart as I thought you were." Because the thing is, he is. But at the end of the day, he got the clues on his wall was just like, ah man, he figured it out. When in
Mhm.
reality, they were more so clues about like what
Carpet,
the end game was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. It's just so crazy how that like how it flipped based on just perspective. It was great.
And I thought it was a very good, when he said that was a very good Riddler Batman interaction, because he always tries to make himself like, I'm smarter than you. You're an idiot. So when he
Mhm.
said, oh, you're not as smart as I thought, I was like, he got you. Checkmate.
Mhm.
Checkmate.
Now that I think about it, that scene reminds me of the Water Boy when the guy was like, Gatorade, water, Gatorade, water. That's exactly what that reminded me of.
I guess I did enjoy I like the take that they took on the Riddler. I think the only nitpick that I have is why was his name Edward Nashton and not Edward Nigma?
I don't know. Maybe they just didn't want to be that on the nose with it.
But I mean,
I guess,
it's
but-
but I guess
Eh.
we have talked so much. I've seen so much talk about, yo, this is a comic book movie. They pulled so many elements from the comic book. They've paid so much homage. This is a love letter to the Batman. But who the hell is Edward Nashton?
Nashton. Who is it?
Like, I think his reveal would have hit, because I was waiting for them to find
say
out who
Nigma,
he was,
right. Like, that's
and say Edward Nigma, because that's the Riddler. And then they said Edward Nashton, so I sat there and I was like, okay, maybe he's going under a fake alias to fool
they
the
did
I mean,
say
he was an
GCPD.
orphan. So do you think it's
And
a play
then-
on that?
And then it gets to
I also thought about that. Yeah.
it could have been. And maybe later he'll change his last name to be Nigma, because then it's a play on Enigma. But I was like, this is the reveal. Edward Nigma. Say that man's name.
And
Like,
no,
if
I felt
this-
the same way
If he's
when they
going,
when they pulled up to the diner. He was like, he got two IDs, and I'm like, one of them gonna say Nigma, and they didn't
and
say it. I was
it
like,
said
oh.
Edward Nashton, so I let it ride, and I was like, okay, maybe this is just another trick of him that you'll never really figure out his full identity. But they never went back to it. They kept calling him Edward Nashton, and I was like, come on, dog, Edward Nigma, let's go, full throttle, let's go. That was my only nitpick with the Riddler, but I think from the rest of the movies, all of the riddles that he was going through, the puzzles. Can we talk about the puzzles? That was him.
That was nice.
The rat puzzle, the bomb around the neck. I was like, yo, I'm playing a game right now. This is the part of the game that I pause it and I take a deep breath and then I go back and play the
When I was
game.
there, I was like, what in the jigsaw is this? Like, this man.
Yeah, he did say that. Did anyone else try to figure out like the riddles as the movie was going?
I didn't figure out none of them except the Justice one. Only the Justice one.
Justice I knew, and I think I knew the price of your blind eye, like how much it was. Oh, and Dead Man Lie Still.
Yeah.
I was like, I know that. But that was fun for me as well. I love when movies do that little stuff. I
I
try
had
to see
never
if I can
been
solve it as
good.
fast as a character.
I ain't that
I'm
smart.
gonna put myself out here. When I played the Batman games, I never did the Riddler side missions because I never understood the riddles, and I don't have the patience to figure that shit out.
Oh.
So I just watched the movie. I was like, he gonna figure that shit out eventually. So I just figure it out when he figure it out.
I cheated off.
She said he gonna tell me the answer.
He gonna tell me the answer.
I cheated off Portia in college, so if she ain't figure it out, I ain't either.
Send them to jail.
Hey, they finna revoke your degree after this shit.
I don't care. It's too late. It's too late.
But I did. There were some people in the theater that I was like, they were whispering, trying to deliberate, what the riddles meant. And I think that if you were one of those people, I felt like that movie, it made you more immersive in the movie because it was like, hell yeah, I got this shit. But me, I was like, he gonna figure this stuff out. So we just gonna wait until he figure it out.
I tried my best, but all I got was the Justice one. The Dead Man Lies Still, I think if I had more time to think about it, probably.
I got that one off real.
But the Justice one was the only one that I could think about.
And it was definitely, that's when I felt like that this is a game. This is what made me feel like that I was watching one of the games. Because they do riddles like that all the time. You have to figure out codes. You have to figure out passcodes and all that other stuff. And when you do the Riddler side missions, you have to figure out like all of his little tricks and stuff that will, if you get it wrong, you're going to die. I've died a couple times. I have. But it felt like I was watching the game. It did. And I was like, okay, this is a different sort of vibe. Because the other Batman games, it doesn't feel like... It didn't give me that type vibe. I'll just say that. Like, The Dark Knight being a video game, I don't know about all that. Love the movie. Game, but if they took this, if this was early 2000s and this movie came out and they said we dropping the Batman game on PlayStation and Xbox, they could definitely do that. And it would definitely deliver.
You know, one little thing that I did like about this movie that was kind of funny? How criminals are scared of Batman and the police was like, we don't fuck with you, but you could possibly whoop our ass too. Gordon, why you bringing this man here? Like, they didn't get buck with the man until he was up in the police facility, and they was like, you know what, it's all of us now. It got to be 40 of us in a room. It was like 30 to 40 police officers in one room, and it's like, now we got him. Like, y'all, he could still
and he still beat y'all up.
Yeah.
He still gave y'all that work.
Even the way he got out of there was just crazy to me. I love the police and Batman dynamics.
That was such a good Batman scene in general. Him escaping the police thing, where and I loved how they illustrate this is early Batman because his hesitation to jump off the building. I was like, later Bruce would not give a fuck.
He would not think about
it. And he did not stick the landing, bro. I love that they added that in and added a humane element to it.
Season Bruce would have been like, "Is a ledge up there?" Bet. I also like the fact that he fucked himself up because I was like, "Ooh," but I was like, I get it, because you're not used to this yet. You don't do this yet. You don't you don't jump off buildings for fun yet. This not you. This not you yet. And that just adds to the fact that this is a starting out Batman. That some of the things that we are used to Batman seeing, like him jumping off a building just to jump off a building, he's not used to that yet. He doesn't do that yet. Or even with the Batmobile, as cool as that MF'er looked, we know what the Batmobile can do. We know what the Batmobile can look like. So it was really watching him get it out the mud, to put it in short. How much can you do without all of the resources that we know you can have? What can you do without Lucius Fox? What can you do without all this tech? What can you do without a fully equipped Batmobile? What can you do without a fully fleshed out Batcave? Because when you look at the Batcave is pretty bare.
Oh yeah, no, even the Bat computer isn't as grand as it could be. right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
And he didn't even have no batarangs either. He just had the one little
Yeah,
chest
the
piece,
that
and that was it.
well, since you brought that up, I love that. The fact that it was detachable, I was like,
That was
this.
dope.
I don't know if they've done this in the comics, but that was great.
That was dope. I like that.
So I'm ready to see this Batman go forward.
Yes.
I sometimes I have an issue with productions announcing a sequel series or a prequel series for a production that hasn't came out to the masses yet, because it's like, come on, y'all, we haven't even seen it yet, and y'all talking about doing what? But I will say for the Batman, for them announcing that the sequel may be Court of Owls, them talking about this Arkham Asylum series that's coming to HBO Max. Now that I've seen the movie, I have no issue with them taking this and running with it. I want to see what they can do.
I'm definitely excited to see what else might come from this. As a Batman fan, comic book wise, as a Batman fan in general, I think there's a lot of interesting things that coming and moving forward. I also really liked about this movie. No other Batman movie has done. We always get to see the visceral, angry, violent Batman, right? Like that. What he's known for is like his physicality. This one we get to see the methodical one. Not only that, but we also get to see him talk about hope at the end of the movie. Because at the end of the day, as much as Batman is a dark character, he is a symbol of hope to a city that is shrouded in darkness. People see him as that, and I really
that
love
lady
that
hand
ending.
at the end.
Yeah, the
When
scene
he was
that
like, I could be
embodies
more,
that.
I was like, that's great.
But I guess without words, the scene that embodies that, which I really enjoyed, was him carrying, when the National Guard showed up, he's carrying a lady to be put on the stretcher, to be put on the helicopter. And when he puts her down, she grabs onto him. Like, at first they were all scared of him, because you remember before that, when he was trying to help them out the floodwaters, they was like, I'm not going to go with you. But it took that little boy grabbing onto his hand to be like, okay, we can trust you. And then immediately after that, the lady didn't want to go with the National Guard. She wanted to stay with the vigilante, because she was like, I don't trust, I believe in you. It's basically what that said. When she gripped onto him and didn't want to go and get medical treatment, she didn't want to leave his arms. It's like, I believe in you and what you can do for Gotham. That spoke volumes, leading up to him saying that he can be more than the symbol of vengeance for the city.
Exactly. And that's the fact that they worked that into this movie, it was my thing to be like, okay, I am definitely invested in whatever else they push out for the Batman. As long as Matt Reeves stays at the helm of this, I am there.
As long as they don't pull a Star Wars, y'all good.
Yeah.
As long as y'all don't put a Star Wars 7 through 9, y'all are good.
So, after watching this movie, are we glad that it's not connected to the Justice League? Because that's what I really wanted to ask.
I was already glad that this shit wasn't connected to the DCEU.
For me, my thing is, I hope that one, I want DC to eventually make their universe. I just feel like the way they're going about it is wrong. I feel like they're trying to rush it because Marvel has already, done the thing. My thing is, if they continue like this, DC, just like Marvel, has an expanded universe, like different Earths. If Robert Pattinson's Batman is not the one that they want from the DCU, that's fine. I just hope that they don't try it, just because of how popular it is. Because I know this movie is going Monday. That box office report, boy,
this guy
that thing is gonna be insane.
Yeah.
But I just hope they don't let the popularity of it make them be like, okay, Robert is now the Batman of the DCU. He don't gotta be. You don't gotta be. Let him do his own thing. Just like they didn't make Joaquin Phoenix like the Joker of the DCEU. You don't gotta be. You can clearly pass that. Now, granted, I probably understand from a marketing standpoint the worry of that, because the everyday movie watcher probably is not going to be able to separate it. I totally get that. I understand that worry, but I really hope that they lean into the fact that, just like Marvel is kind of leaning into their multiverse saga, I hope DC leans into the fact that multiverses exist. This Batman is not the same Batman that you're probably going to get from DCEU.
This is what I want. I want this to be standalone. I don't want this to be like, he's a Batman from a different universe, and we may do a crossover. I don't want that.
Well, I'm not saying necessarily that, but I'm just saying like the two Batman can exist and have nothing to do with each other. That's more of where I'm coming from.
Okay,
Yeah,
because when you said multiverse, when I hear the word multiverse, I see that
Think that eventually a clash is going to happen.
Eventually, a clash is going to happen.
I'm not saying that they should do that. I feel like they are.
I don't even think that they should say the term. They should not show up Monday morning and saying that Robert Patterson is a Batman from an alternate universe. He's from Earth 626. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that, because then that leads into the pool that one day he may cross over with the DCEU. And I want, because of the villains that I want to see next, I want him to stay as far away from the DCEU as possible.
That's fair.
And I feel
agree.
like I feel like DC should keep it all standalone, because I was telling Jay, this was one of my for the type of films that I like, this was one of my favorite movies in a few years. Well, my last great movie was The Joker and John Wick Chapter 3. Like, I enjoyed this movie as a movie, period.
So the thing I like about comic book movies when done like this is that they're not superhero movies. Like, first and foremost, the superheroes are characters in the movie. Mm-hmm. And this movie falls under this type of genre. I like stuff like that. Like, like for instance, Aquaman's movie, while being a superhero movie, is more of an action adventure film than anything. It's not, you can kind of see the points of where it falls under superhero, but like the way it's structured is more action adventure. And like even the other good DCU the Shazam movie, that's more like a finding myself movie more than it is like really a superhero. The superheroes are featured, but Billy Batson is like really trying to figure out who he is as a person along with becoming a superhero, and that's what makes it such a good movie. So like I hope well, my thing is, if they're continuing this, Matt Reeves, I fully trust in creating more thriller or suspense like Batman films, because that is Batman at its core, is really a suspenseful type of story. There are hopeful ones, there are fun ones, but if we're going this route, I don't see any problem, and I hope they continue doing what they're doing. Because the fact that they made Riddler probably a lesser known villain to a lot of people, do what he did in that movie, I have no doubts.
Let me tell you something. Halloween finna be a monster.
Oh man, the amount of Riddler people showing up, crazy.
As long as nobody show up with duct tape wrapped around their head, I'm fine. I'm gonna tell you, get out.
I want DC and their stakeholders to stick to making good movies. If they stick to good movies, that be their focus. They solid.
Here's my thing. DC and Warner Brothers, if they would stop, as McMillian said, if they stop trying to compete with Marvel and stop rushing, they can produce stuff like this. Because they can do a good job if they stop trying to shove shit in the DCEU, which they are trying to make a replica of the MCU. If they just decided to say, we don't want to go that route anymore and just make these standalone movies, they could make bank off of that. I think DC could succeed the same way they're succeeding with the animated universe, is that all of these stories are not connected to each other. You may have a couple movies that you need to watch this one before you watch this one, but the DC animated movie that comes after that is a completely different story that doesn't even tie to the previous two movies that you've seen before. And they succeed at that. So if they would take that direction with the live action movies, we could get some good DC content in the movies. If they would stop trying so hard to make their stuff equivalent to the MCU.
Because the thing is, at the end of the day, regardless of Marvel's popularity now, DC still owns the 3 most popular characters in existence.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman are the pillars of comic bookdom. Like, no matter how good MCU gets, those are the people think about first, probably when you think of a superhero.
Yeah.
And they never really had to compete with Marvel. And I hope that this movie, specifically the success that it brings, shows them that. Because this is furthest thing from an MCU movie in regards to like everything that goes in it.
Hell, even the way that they showed off their villains, like it shows that they have something really good. They're like not too many people. Like the Riddler, if you think Batman, if you actually watch Batman, you've heard that name before. But most people, like y'all said, think of the Joker. I'm pretty sure the Riddler got some fans after this movie. Marvel did a good job bringing up heroes like Iron Man, who didn't know about bringing up different heroes that people ain't know about. But DC just brought up one of many villains, and I'm sure people are going to fall in love with the Riddler after this. They got to show more.
Mm-hmm. So we're getting close to the time limit. As far as the Batman movie, did anybody have anything else that they wanted to touch on about this movie?
Nah.
I loved it.
I loved it. The only I don't know if we're doing ratings or anything like that, but personally, as much as I love this movie, it's kind of like a 9 out of 10 for me. And the only reason is the lack of the problem. Maybe it slightly might be the Bruce Wayne stuff, but more so, there are parts of this movie I felt like could have been edited a little bit tighter. Like everything in there, good, but we could have made it more tight.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I'm really good movie. Really excited to see what else comes next, especially if Matt Reeves is continuing being Matt Reeves, Robert Patterson. I think they have something good, and I eventually wait for the return of Selena Kyle because there's no way
she's coming back.
Yeah.
To touch on the ending is so Bruce and Selena that they are going their separate ways, but you know she's coming back. And
I love
it. The ending scene, he was like, "You want me to stay?" And he was like, "I'm not gonna." You said it, not me. And then they drive off in the distance, but you know, like from that scene, even though she left, you know she's going to come back, and that is so Bruce and Selena, and I loved it.
What I think is so funny is that people immediately after watching this movie, they're like, "Bruce better than me" because I would have folded. I would have
on the motor. I would have picked her up and put her on the motorcycle.
I would have left. You want me to leave?
You want to go?
Leave?
Where you want to go?
I don't like this place anyway. I don't like this place anyway.
Well, they flooded right now, so I'm gonna wait till the water drain out. I'll be back. I'll be back when the water drain out.
Be like, baby girl, you right. The bat and the cat, that do got a ring to it. I love it.
I like the way you said that. Say it again.
Say it again. Whisper it in my ear.
I would have voted. I know I'm not a superhero or a villain. I would have voted right there.
I would have voted at the beginning of the movie. I would have met her at the club. I gave up being a vigilante after that first riddle. I met you at the club.
She did give him that look when he was up in the club.
But if there isn't anything else, one, I want to say thank you, McMillian, for joining us once again on the Blerd Mob for this special episode.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. You know, thank you for having me. I got useless comic book and movie knowledge in my head that I gotta get out somehow. And anime is very much a love of mine, but comic books, I started with the Batman animated series, and then you
just go from there.
So thank y'all for having me.
I don't know if I said this at the beginning, but this is one of the biggest Batman fans that I know, so it was only right to put him on the episode. And I want to thank Ryan and Ralph for being here today, and for everybody who's listened to this episode and who's been listening to us for the previous episodes. Thank you for continuing on this journey with us. And with that being said, Ralph, you can lead us out.
All right. Make sure you guys follow us on Instagram at the Blerd Mob Pod, and make sure you guys follow us or please like and subscribe to the video anyway. But make sure to follow us on Twitter and Facebook at the Blerd Mob. And if that's it, we're signing out. Peace.
Peace.
Hands up if you loving where you at, stand 10 toes down. Shout out, ain't no looking mad. You can let them haters hate when they asking why I'm smiling. I just tell them life's great.